Lucius Plutarch was the high priest of Apollo at Delphi, a Middle Platonist philosopher from the end of the 1st century, who wrote dozens of books and almost 100 essays on topics that stretch from epistemology, ethics, history, and metaphysics. He was a student of Ammonius of Athens, one of the founders of Middle Platonism, and focused much of his life on the topic of religion. In his Symposiacs, Book 4, question number 6, he says, "Which god is worshipped by the Jews?" Now, if you were to compare Yahweh and Dionysus, you could think of a million things that separate the two. Number 1, Yahweh is not the god of wine and parties and orgies, and Dionysus is not a god who wants a grand temple and a high priesthood, and definitely no Messiah. There are definite things that separate these two gods. In some ways, they are almost opposites. You can almost say that Dionysus is closer to Satan than he is to Yahweh. And all of those points are fair. However, Plutarch makes some good points here. He says, the tutelary god called Euius, the inciter of women, famous for the honors he has conferred upon him by madmen, to be inscribed and enrolled in the mysteries of the Jews? Or is there any solid reason that can be given to prove Adonis to be the same with Bacchus? And no man is able or fit to bring the chief confirmation of this truth, but those amongst us who are initiated and skilled in Greek, or chief mysteries of the god. But what no religion forbids to speak of among friends, especially over wine, the gift of Bacchus, I am ready at the command of these gentlemen to disclose. He then says, when all the company requested and earnestly begged it of him, first of all, the time and manner of the greatest, most holy rites of the Jews is exactly agreeable to the holy rites of Bacchus. For that which they call the fast, they celebrate in the midst of vintage, furnishing their tables with all sorts of fruits, while they sit under the tabernacles made of vines and ivy. In the day which they immediately goes before this, they call the Holy Day of Tabernacles. Within a few days after, they celebrate another feast, not darkly, but openly, dedicated to Bacchus. For they have a feast amongst them called Cradiphoria, from carrying palm trees, and Thrysophoria, when they enter into the temple, carrying the thrice. What they do within I know not, but it is very probable that they perform the rites of Bacchus. First, they have little trumpets, such as the Greeks used in their Bacchanalia, to call upon their gods with. Others go before them, playing upon harps, which they call Levites, whether so named from Lysios or Euius. Either word agrees with Bacchus, and I suppose that their Sabbaths have some relation to Bacchus, for even now many call the Bacchae by the name Sabbatios, the Sabbath god, and they make use of that word at the celebration of Bacchus's orgies. And this may be discovered out of Demosthenes or Menander, nor would it be out of place were anyone to say that the name Sabbath was given to this feast from the agitation and excitement with the priest of Bacchus display. The Jews themselves witness no less, for when they keep the Sabbath, they invite one another to drink until they are drunk, or if they chance to be hindered by some more weighty business, it is the fashion at least to taste wine. Some perhaps may surmise that these are mere conjectures, But there are other arguments which will clearly evince the truth of what I assert. First may be drawn from their high priest, who on holidays enters their temple with his mitre on, arrayed in a skin of hind embroidered with gold, wearing buskins and a coat hanging down to his ankles. Besides, he has a great many little bells, depending from his garment, which make a noise as he walks. So in the nocturnal ceremonies of Bacchus, as the fashion is among us, they make use of the music and call the gods nurses. High upon the wall of their temple is a representation of the thyrsus and timbrels, which surely suits no other god than Bacchus. Moreover, they are forbidden to use honey in their sacrifices, because they suppose that a mixture of honey corrupts and deads the wine, and honey was used for a libation in former days, and with it the ancients were wont to make themselves drunk before the vine was known. And at this day, barbarous people who want wine drink, allaying the sweetness of the honey by bitter roots, much of the taste of our wine. The Greeks offered to their gods these temperate offerings, or honey offerings, as they called them, because the honey was of a nature quite contrary to wine. But this is no inconsiderable argument that Bacchus is worshipped by the Jews, in that, amongst other kinds of punishment, that was most remarkably odious, by which malefactors were forbid the use of wine for so long a time as the judge thought fit to prescribe. The interesting thing that Plutarch lays out is the imagery in the temple. The vines and animals and gold and purple would be very familiar to somebody from Athens or Eleusinian mysteries would see this and think of Bacchus and Demeter. In the book 2 Chronicles, there is a in-depth description of the building of the temple by Solomon, in which much of it is built with gold and ivy and depictions of the heavens and the sea and many animals. This particular verse in chapter 11:15 says, "He set up priests of his own for the high places, for the satyrs and the calves which he had made." Calves and satyrs are the exact model for the worship of Dionysus. In fact, Dionysus is even worshipped in the form of a satyr. He leads an army of satyrs in the Dionysica from Nonus. And to top it all off, Leviticus 17:7 says that they shall no more offer their sacrifice to satyrs, after whom they have gone whoring. This shall be a statute forever to them throughout their generations. This verse in Leviticus acknowledges an ancient rite that the Jews used to practice before it was outlawed.